I'm Pamela Wilson, Director of Schools for the Anglophone School District. We've been working on the new pedagogies for deeper learning in the Anglophone School District for a few years now. The work is based on Michael Fullen's research on the use of competencies, the global competencies in the classroom. And using the global competencies in the classroom allows for deeper learning to take place. The 6 competencies in the Deep Learning Competency Framework for the new pedagogies for deeper learning are creativity, and creativity helps the students learn how to have an entrepreneurial eye when they're learning to ask inquiry questions, generate different ideas, and it develops their leadership skills to pursue their ideas and turn them into action. So that's creativity. The second competency is citizenship. And citizenship is a big piece of that deeper learning. It's thinking about themselves as global citizens. It's considering global issues based on a deeper understanding of values and worldviews. And it's helping the students to generate interest and to solve complex real-world problems that impact themselves and others. The third competency is character. So learning how to deep learn. It's helping the students to develop essential character traits such as tenacity, perseverance, and resilience. It gives them the ability to make learning an integral part of their living every day. The next competency is critical thinking. So this helps the students to critically evaluate information. They're able to see patterns and connections with the real world, and they're able to develop meaningful knowledge and apply this in real-world situations. The next competency is collaboration, so working with others, working interdependently, and helping the students to develop skills to work in teams, which is a big piece of learning in the school setting and will be in post-education experiences as well. It's what workplaces are looking for. And the final competency is communication. So communicating effectively with others, using different tools, including digital as well. These 6 global competencies together help the students to learn about the curriculum, but not in isolation. It's going to help them to be deep learners and to bring meaning to their learning to apply to the real world. It's important to note that the 6 global competencies and the work of the new pedagogies for deeper learning, it's not replacing our curricular outcomes, it's allowing students to delve more deeply into those outcomes by making connections. And so there are different ways that we look at the 4 elements in implementing the competencies into the classroom. So we have the new pedagogies piece, which talks about instruction and a move away from direct instruction with the teacher at the front of the classroom to a more blended learning environment where there's a blending of groups of students learning, the student voice is used as well, and just looking at a variety in the student's day for student engagement. Another element that we look at in helping to incorporate the 6 competencies would be learning partnerships. And so how do we include the community in the learning of the classroom? So we have the teachers, the parents, and the students involved in the learning. And with the global competencies, we can also incorporate some guest speakers into the classroom. We can look at the industries involved that we can connect with the curricular outcomes, and we can look at community partnerships as well. And all of that helps to deepen the learning for the students. The third element that we can look at in helping to incorporate the competencies would be the learning environment. And so the traditional learning environment would have the students perhaps in rows in the classroom, and as we evolve for 21st century learning, we're more global in our learning environment. We could even take the learning outdoors. We could have a field trip to another setting. So we could also use a traditional library setting or the classroom textbook as well, but we could also go virtual and global and work with others outside of the classroom to explore the learning in that way and make it deeper. And finally, we're going to leverage digital as a 4th element. It doesn't mean that we have to use digital all day in the classroom, but we can look at leveraging digital for some of the learning to make it more deeper for students. And this will help with personalizing the learning as well. So is it that we're using technology as a tool to access others outside of the classroom? Or is it that we're personalizing the technology itself for students to have deeper learning? Either way, using digital is meaningful. It needs to be meaningful and not just a tool in front of them, but it needs to help deepen the learning for the students to be successful. And so with those 4 elements, they wrap around the 6 competencies to help the teachers to know how to incorporate the 6 competencies into the classroom. In the Anglophone East School District, we've been on the journey of using new pedagogies for deeper learning for a few years now. We started with a few schools and pockets within those schools. It's quickly grown once those schools have had the chance to share the positive, engaged experience from the students and the teachers. So now it's grown to involve over 25 of our schools on a regular basis, and we're going to hear now from 2 of those schools who have been on the journey from the beginning.
My name is Mattel. I'm principal at Burrow School. We're a K-8 school in the west end of Moncton. We're located by the traffic circle close to Riverview, and we draw in kids from an urban area and rural areas. So we cover the Salisbury Road area, the Old West End, New West End, and we're the French immersion location for the west end of Moncton. So we have kids coming to us grade 1 and grade 3, and we're about 570 kids, kindergarten to grade 8, with a large K-4 population, but we also have a middle school population as well. So it's focusing on these 6 competencies. It's called New Pedagogies for Deeper Learning. It's a good fit for engagement of teachers, but it's also a good fit for engagement of students. So I had some teachers who didn't feel like they had the ability to be as creative as they wanted to be anymore, or to be as innovative as they wanted to, and this program gives them a little bit more freedom to be the teacher that they wanted to be and the teachers that the kids need them to be. And then for the kids, we have an industrial factory model for schools. This breaks that model. It makes the school fit the kids versus the kids fit the school.
Great. Yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Adam Rogerson and I am currently the principal of Riverview East School, located in Riverview, New Brunswick in Anglophone East. This is a newer school. We were built 5 years ago. We are now entering our 6th year in our construction, in our building. We are currently a K-8 with 654 students, English and French immersion programs, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our particular journey for new pedagogies for deeper learning. Riverview East has always been highly successful in its academic endeavors in terms of whether it's individual student assessment and their results or large-scale assessment with provincial standardized testing. They've always done well. However, what we were noticing though was that in our perception data, students were not feeling engaged. Teachers were losing engagement. We were starting to see a drop in the passion for learning and a passion for teaching. So we wanted to try something new. We started off by having a few teachers that were really keen and interested in doing it become sort of like the pilot classrooms. So I did have 2 or 3, actually 4 teachers that first year, grade 1, grade 5 immersion, grade 7 English, and grade 8 immersion, do some projects together based around the rubrics that entail deeper learning. So we did that the first year. The rest of the staff started to see, hey, this is really neat. The kids are totally engaged, we're seeing some amazing work being done, and the staff started becoming more excited about it. And then I had more people decide to jump on board. What has changed in our building in terms of classroom dynamic and the way classrooms are set up is that the classrooms, teachers at RES have always worked together collaboratively, but what I'm seeing is a lot more collaboration now with deeper pedagogy movement. And it seemed, people talk about tearing down the walls. Well, we literally have opened up some walls in our schools where people are actually doing a lot more team teaching, where the kids are intermingling a lot more and being able to work together at different grade levels, not just based on their grade, but based on their interest, on their abilities, and whatever it is at the time that the teachers have designed for a deeper learning challenge. So that has definitely changed. What I'm also seeing is a lot more integration of not just technology, but a lot more materials. So I mean, it's, you know, one of the topics involved, or one of the tenets of deeper pedagogies is leveraging digital, but you don't need to be necessarily a digitally rich school to follow through with this particular type of pedagogy. But I am seeing what resources we do have for electronics being used much more readily now by all teachers in the building. That's been a huge change in the last 5 years.
We're obviously a school that's almost 60 years old, so we have very traditional architecture, very traditional physical spaces, layouts, so we've had to flex and adapt to a certain extent. So you don't see classrooms in rows anymore. You see classrooms that are in little mini pods. So whether it's tables that are moved together or the desks that are moved around during the day, the desks are never really typically in the same spot from day to day. Teachers move them around as they need to.
What happens now is that we're noticing a lot less what we would call the traditional stand and deliver, where the teacher is the holder of the knowledge and the children are trying to repeat and regurgitate what it is that they're learning. Instead, they're being given a problem and they're solving the problem.
We don't want kids just gathering and regurgitating information to get a grade on a test or on a project. We want kids thinking things through and being innovative in their designs. So, for instance, here's a problem. How would you solve that problem? And some kids may come up with a very traditional solution for it. Some kids may come up with a very innovative or inspirational way. So, I'm thinking of last year we had So the biggest thing with this is it ties everything together. So it ties together all of our goals from our positive learning and working plans. It ties together our school improvement goals. It ties together so many curricular areas into one that it makes it sustainable. Because there's too many educational initiatives that are sort of a one and done philosophy. Let's put a whole bunch of money and resources and we'll improve this. And then we'll improve this in isolation and improve this in isolation, but really it all needs to be improved together. So this builds collaboration not just amongst the kids when they're working, but it builds collaboration amongst teachers. So you have teachers of different grade levels, teachers of different subject areas working together on these common projects and building these skills throughout the school so that by the time these kids are done after 9 years here, these competencies, global competencies, the 6 C's of Npdl are not a thing, it's part of them.
So one of the amazing things about using this particular form of pedagogy is that we're still obviously covering our New Brunswick curriculum, but it's simply a different approach. One of the things that we've been looking at in the province through our 10-year education plan is developing 6 global competencies. And the 6 global competencies that have been identified in our province for 21st century learners tie in perfectly with the 6 C's, as we call them, for deeper pedagogy. They're exactly the same thing. And so this is a great way of working in the goals in our 10-year plan for the province to be able to further develop 21st century learners, because we know that we're working towards creating something for students, for whether it's in post-secondary or in the workforce, that may not necessarily be in existence today. And so employers aren't looking for specific skill sets, but instead they're looking for 6 really characteristics.
We know that our kids are starting to ingrain those skill sets. They want to be leaders, they want to grow up and take on ownership of things, so this gives them a chance to pick something that they're really passionate about and roll with that. And our big focus now is on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals for the United Nations, so it's understanding how they fit in their community, how they fit in their province, how they fit in their country, and how their choices fit in the world. And knowing that the world's going to change at a breakneck pace, we need to give the kids every fighting chance that we have to be successful in that world as it changes, because we don't know what careers our kids are going to have. We know that they need to be well-trained, well-adjusted individuals so that whatever comes their way, they can handle that. And that's what Npdl gives people. It gives you a framework to develop good citizens and good students. And it's all about growth mindset too, so the kids say, this is what I want to do, this is my plan to do it. You know what, I might mess up, I might fail, but I'm going to figure out how to make it better. I'm going to figure out how to improve. So it's the constant feedback loop is important too, because the kids are not only getting feedback in terms of grades, but it's feedback in terms of, well, this worked or this didn't work. So they get the feedback. Feed up is, you did really well on this, so you're building your self-esteem, and then the feed forward is, next time did you think about trying this? Or if you did this, it might improve that piece. So they're getting feedback and collaboration from their peers, and that's a skill that they're going to take into the workforce or university or college or wherever they might end up, because that's what you see in the workforce, and it's something we haven't really done a whole lot of in schools, unfortunately.
for example, this is a project we did last year on food. So one of the You and Your World outcomes that we were focusing on is learning about the food groups and healthy eating and things like that. And it's a pretty common theme throughout the K to 2 curriculum. So we were studying really what different foods are good for us and what the food groups are and balanced eating and things like that. And then we started really investigating where our food comes from and if that's important, if it's something that we should be paying attention to. And we just started with the inquiry question, do you know where your food comes from? And had the students try to plot some different foods on a map and guess where they came from. And then we developed a kind of an investigation through maybe 2 weeks or so where the students kept a food journal and tracked where all their food was coming from and then used Google Maps to find where that place actually was on a map and place a little push pin on all the different places. So then we kind of had this research product at the end that showed where all the food from our K to 2 pod was coming from over a 2-week span. And the students then get to have some choice in how they want to represent that information. And one of the really cool ways that students were doing that was with these LED light maps. So they would say, I really did some investigations on grapes and carrots and bananas, and then they learned how to use LED lights to press the button and make the light flash to show where the food came from. So that was connecting a lot of the different tech stuff that we've been learning over the year within that Npdl project.
So we started out with any kind of change in education, you have to start small and you have to have proof of concept basically. So we started with a grade 1 class, grade 2 class, and a grade 6 class. And my grade 6 teacher was one of my science leads for the school, so she taught a variety of different grade levels, French and English. It was a grade 1 class, English Prime, and a grade 2 class, English Prime, and they figured out that they wanted to do a project based on bees because it fit curriculum for all 3. And they wanted the kids to specialize in a certain area. So the grade 1s were the anatomy experts. The grade 2s focused more on their role in the environment and how the pollination cycle, things like that. And then the grade 6s focused a lot on hive dynamics and threats to the species and different things like that. So then they all came together and the grade 1s taught the grade 2s and 6s about their area specialty. The grade 2s taught the 1s and 6s, and everybody sort of had their expertise that they shared. We brought in, we had 2 parents who were beekeepers, so they came in and taught the kids about how to use the gear properly, what a hive looks like. We actually brought a live closed hive into the school and the kids could see the bees doing their communication dances, everything like that. And then it all kind of came together as a big STEM fair that we had at the end of the year here at the school, where the kids created products or created brochures, pamphlets that showcased what they had learned. So we had grade 1 kids who had parents, all kinds of other people coming to them and saying, explain your model to me. And when you have a 6-year-old explaining a bee's compound eye to an adult with precision, that's pretty exciting stuff. Then you had another group of boys, they wanted to create a website with a QR code to teach other people about the threats to bees. And they came to me and said, can we have $100 to publish these business cards and brochures? And I said no. I said, be resourceful, figure out how you're going to do it. So they went to 3 different companies locally, negotiated with them, and convinced them to make them for free. So they handed those out. So they're having that entrepreneurial mindset, the scientific mindset, creativity. So they're trying to pull all these different skills and everything into a project that means something to them and that they own. And then our big sort of culminating project was our garden that we created here at the school. So the kids designed bee-friendly spaces, butterfly spaces, pollinator spaces, and we turned a safe drop-off zone that was basically a grassy field into a sustainable harvest garden that our community gathers hundreds and hundreds of pounds of produce from every year. And it's all planted by the kids, maintained by kids, parents, volunteers, and we deliver a lot of food to the community. It's a sweat equity garden, so parents and kids can come in and work in the summer if they want to. We've gotten different grants to help support it. So we have a grant, actually in 2 weeks we're planting apple trees, pear trees, cherry trees, blueberries, so we're adding a fruit component with the idea that the kids want to manufacture their own fruit leather, so like organic fruit roll-ups basically. And we're partnering with Hillcrest, so that's the other piece, is building community partnerships too. So we're working with Hillcrest, which is a school just down the street from us. They're growing spinach and lettuce, we're growing fruits and vegetables, and we're going to try to make soup packs and different things like that that we can share between the 2 schools, because we're one community. And then we pass on things to the Humanity Project, the food banks, We had one of the kids from our neighborhood this summer picked about 20 pounds of beans, and he went door to door handing them out to his neighbors. And the source of pride that he had from that was huge, because it was from his school, his garden, and he was helping out his neighbors and paying it forward. So it just rolls into so many different things about just being a good person, not just a good student.
The methodology of new pedagogies for deeper learning can be essentially implemented in any school, no matter what the socioeconomic background, no matter what their current reality is. The difference being is that every school is going to have to look upon it with their own sense of journey. Everyone's journey is going to be a little bit different. Where we were 3 years ago was different from 6 other schools in our district that began the journey at the same time. Where we are today is different from all those other schools, and that's okay. What's important is actually just beginning the journey down this particular path in terms of new methodologies for teaching curriculum and for engaging students and staff.
Make the school fit the kids versus make the kids fit the school. And what that really boils down to is everybody's different. Everybody has different aptitudes, and to measure everybody the exact same way is not fair. It's not sustainable. Some kids are very proficient at writing tests, but that doesn't always measure the learning in a fair way for everybody. So it's like asking a fish to climb a tree versus asking an elephant to beat a fish in a swimming race. Everybody has their own skills, everybody has their own aptitudes, and it's allowing them to measure and show their abilities in a way that suits them versus being forced to conform into what schools have always traditionally been. And that's the biggest thing that comes out of this, is making school fit kids and making kids feel confident at school in their abilities versus making them fit this traditional model that doesn't work for everybody.